language is already published, and somehow some contents were translated, and then he tried a Google Translator to see the other portions also, and he found that most of the percentage, that is self plagiarism we call, of the paper were same, and subsequently we have to reject that paper. But these things, they happen. We could have taken some action also, but I mean, many things are to be seen. So that is how the process goes on. It plays a central role in academic career development, of course, and that is why most of us are here. And it is an essential art, as it says, that we must be able to review the papers, we must be able to write the papers. Both things are equally important. Then going back further, what we realize is that what are the different stages of reviewing? See, there are, once the manuscript is submitted, I mean, this little brief will help us. Uh, this little brief will help us uh, in understanding the process. So, if you are an author and if you have submitted the paper, what happens to that paper first? It goes to the technical team, and the first person to see is the chief editor. The chief editor sees whether that paper, because he is very reputed person, and he is usually a very senior person who has so many things to do, and he will not have much time, but he, at a glance, he will be able to judge your paper whether it is suitable for the journal or not, even by reading the abstract and title and abstract. They are two most important things. Reading those two things and just scrolling to the papers of your publication, maybe some figures, he will know whether the paper is suitable for the journal. First thing. Second thing, whether the quality, whether the language, these things. And if he finds at all that it is something interesting, then he will assign a handling editor to it. It is not the job of the chief editor to assign the reviewers, unless he wants himself to review, unless he makes himself as the handling editor. Otherwise, he will have to assign one handling editor to it, and that handling editor will subsequently uh, invite the reviewers. At least many of the journals, most of the journals, they want at least two reviewers to review the paper, and he will. This is the stage at which most of the time will be utilized. When your manuscript is with the chief editor, you, he will give his decision within at the most 1 week or so, because he won't take much time for that. He will not go much into much details of it. If he thinks that it is not suitable for the journal, immediately he will convey. If it is suitable, then he will assign a handling editor. And nowadays, many of the publication agencies such as Elsevier, they have a mechanism by which the authors can know whether your manuscript is going to the next stage or not. They will also know who is the handling editor of your paper. And nowadays, even some of the journals, they can ask you to which editor your paper should go. That means that kind of transparency is there, because all that matters is the science, nothing else. And the whole presentation today I am giving to you, it is based on this simple principle that we are talking about the science, which is beyond any personal relationships. Okay, and then the last stage is the linguistic corrections, and that there is also an editor who sees that English is the language of science, and we all know that. But the person, linguistic editor, he has the job to see that proper English is used, so that the proper research is conveyed and communicated to the society. But it is not the job of a reviewer to review the language and all that. Of course, you can make a lot of suggestions. We'll talk about it. So this is how it goes from the chief editor to the handling editor, then to the reviewers. The reviewer comes in the picture by formal invitation to be a reviewer, and you have to accept the invitation, because when they when they send you a request for reviewing a manuscript, at that time they will also send the abstract and the title, and then you can judge from the abstract and the title that whether you can whether you think that you can review this paper. And then once you give your nod, once you say that yes, I can review this paper, when you accept it, then you will be given a username, password, whatever is necessary for reviewing process. You can be taken to the site, and then you can download the paper and read it, and then you can give your comments, and everything follows subsequent to this. Now, first and foremost in this connection is you have to follow certain professional ethics, and these are very, very important. We'll talk about all those. First and foremost, are you qualified to take up the review? This is the question that no one else will ask you. It is the question that you have to ask yourself. It is not that you are not qualified, but the topic on which the focus of the paper is whether you are qualified to review that. You may be expert in one domain, but if the paper is out of your expertise, then definitely you are not qualified to take up that review. So it is for you to first decide, ask yourself honestly whether this paper falls within the scope of your expertise. If it falls too outside of your discipline and knowledge, it is better to leave the review for someone else. It is better to say no. I'm so sorry, I cannot take up this review. But usually, the journal wants that if you can recommend someone else to whom you know is working in this particular field, and if you can recommend, that is a great help. Being an editor, I always appreciate such reviewers decline the review, but at the same time, who suggest the other people who can review. So, being a good reviewer, I think that this is also a thing that you must keep in mind. If you are not able to take up the review work, then at least suggest someone else who can do it. Next thing is, do you have time for the review? This is equally important. Say, we think that okay, I am doing some work and then maybe after some time I will be able to find time. See, most important thing is if we are having an urgent work, if we are having some review meetings in our office, maybe we'll be too busy. Maybe we have a marriage function at our own house, maybe something like that. And then if we dare to think that 3 4 days will be enough for me to complete the review, I think that is not the thing which should you rely on, because it may usually go beyond 3 4 days, and it actually does, because we think that within 2 3 days I will be able to finish this review and then get back to other works. Usually takes longer than that. So it's important that you have to make an effort to review within the specified deadline. Many a times I have seen I have to send reminders time and again to the reviewers. So this is reminder one, reminder two, and all that. That what is happening to the review process. So it is always good to be within. If you have accepted to be a reviewer, always complete. Always try to complete your review within the given time, whether 21 days or 45 days, whatever time they give you for the review. So that is very important. Second thing is, if in any case you have accepted to complete the review within say 21 days time, but somehow you feel that you need one more week, then it is better that before the deadline you make a formal request to the editorial office that you want additional 1 week, and you will find that those people will be most happy and pleased to extend the deadlines, because that extension will also be reflected in the online system, editorial manager, or whatever system it has, EVS, whatever. So in that system also it will reflect, and then they will expect that you complete within the extended deadline. That's okay. I will be always happy to see this kind of reviewers. People's research careers may be depending on how quickly their papers are published. That is why also it is important, because you are, I mean, some of you might be the early career academicians, and therefore, obviously, you will be in need of the papers to be published urgently. So, if you are a reviewer, you have to think of the people for whom it makes a lot of difference. If you are a relatively young researcher, you may need to put in additional time in order to familiarize yourself with the background literature. Say, I will suggest if you are a first-time reviewers, it happens first time or maybe earlier career reviewers. Then, of course, in a lot of excitement, we accept this job. At the same time, we have this duty to make sure that you read as much as possible. You try to cover as many topics as possible. Whatever references are cited by the reviewers, try to download those. Many of the publishing systems, for example, Elsevier, they offer almost 1 month or something like that subscription free, so that you may need to read some of the research papers. As for Science Direct, they give you free access from your home also. You can download any number of papers, and you can complete the review. And they give you, I mean, I remember they give you that link for 1 month, and in entire 6 months, anytime you can start and use it. So that is how it can be done. They want you to read it, and that is very important. That is very important. So next is about uh, it has to be taken seriously. It's a job. It's a review process, because someone's paper, someone's efforts, they are all involved in it. Peer review is at the best, is at the heart of the scientific process. And in order for the process to work, the review must be rigorous. So a lot of thinking is necessary. Your review should ideally help the authors to improve the quality of their manuscript and contribute to the overall quality of the journal. That is our job. We have to see to it. Of course, I mean, at certain point of time in your career, you realize that uh, every paper cannot be of very high standards. We have to judge the journal to which it is being submitted. You are reviewer, it's okay. Say, for example, if you have to review a paper which is being published in the conference proceedings, we know that there are no impact factors and nothing. These papers are relatively less cited, and people don't uh, give much importance to these papers. And if for such a paper you review it thoroughly, it's okay, it's always okay. If you recommend it not acceptable, the editor will be very reluctant in accepting your opinion on that, because for a conference proceeding, it is almost sure that your paper will be published there. So just in such cases, you have to just see to it that the paper is error free. If not, it meeting very high standards of publication and all that, that's easy. But when you are dealing with a regular journal, it is your duty to see to it that you dig it as deeper as possible and give the best, so that the proper current error free knowledge, free of plagiarism and all that, comes to the public domain. Next important ethics is the avoid bias. We usually have biases. It's a human tendency. Absolutely do not review a manuscript if you have a strong feeling, whether it is positive or negative, about any of the authors. If you know the authors, usually for many journals, it is not a blindfold review. It is an open review. That means the name of the authors are known to the reviewers. Some of the journals, they have double blind peer review system. In that case, the name of the authors is not disclosed. But for most of the journals, you will see that name of the authors are disclosed to the reviewers. So if you see a person who is working in your fields and your ideas never match with one another, and you think, अच्छा ऐसा है क्या? इसका paper मैं reject करता हूँ. That kind of tendencies develops, and therefore, one being a researcher, being a scientist, it is our job just to avoid the biases of any sort. Absolutely do not review manuscript with any intention of reaping personal or professional benefit from it. अपने दोस्त का है, उसको मैं बोल दूंगा बाद में कि चलो आपका पेपर मेरे पास आया है, मेरा जब तुम्हारे पास आएगा तो देख लेना थोड़ा सा. This kind of thing is out of the ethics, so please don't let anyone to know that, whether, I mean, to your closest friend also don't tell that you are reviewer of their papers. So this kind of things, these are the ethics of being a reviewer. Abstract, see, these are some very unfortunate but important points, that abstracts with female senior authors are systematically more poorly reviewed than the abstract with senior male authors. Don't know why, but the surveys have proved it that for those abstract or when there is the female lead or female senior corresponding author, or if she is female, then the papers are more poorly reviewed, and at the same time all the articles with woman dominant, they receive less citations than those which are dominated by the male authors. This kind of reports are there, and what they mean you have to decide. uh, They say don't be intimidated. That means, for example, there is some senior person, and sorry, okay, if there is a senior person in your profession, you know him, and probably if he is so powerful that he also knows that maybe through someone or through mechanism that the paper has gone to you, or maybe he has suggested your name as a reviewer or something like that, and you are in awe, or you are humbled by his power or something like that. In that case, it is possible that you are intimidated, dar lagna, that what he will think. So even the poor quality papers, they are through. Unfortunately, most of the ethics, um, they are not exactly followed. But then in that case, if such thing arises, best way is to keep your anonymity. Don't reveal to many people that you are reviewing their manuscript, so that will save you from many of these problems. The next point is that only the anonymity of the reviewers. You can choose not to reveal your identity to the authors, although it is already known to the editors. Of course, editors will know, but then authors will not know. And that is very important. This certainly gives you more confidence to do critical reviews of the people who are known to you. Maybe your friend, maybe your senior, maybe anyone you know, you keep him with high esteem or what. But by avoiding any sort of biases, to do that, anonymity will definitely help you. And then next point is the uh, respect the confidentiality. What happens? I mean, I have seen people who talk loosely about the research of the others. Somehow they get some manuscript to review, or maybe through something else, and then they skip. अरे उसने तो ऐसा पेपर लिखा है, ऐसे लोग करते हैं, ऐसा करते हैं. And that means they started talking loosely about one's research. Say, no one is perfect. Everyone starts at some point of time. Many of the papers that we publish, they are only developed to perfection or to certain good level only after being reviewed by the people. There are so many things we ought to lose, we ought to miss them. But through review process, through the revisions, that we definitely add a lot of flavor to our paper, a lot of information into that. But if someone takes the advantage of that and says the person is not doing well and this and that, so that confidentiality goes. So it is very important that we should maintain the confidentiality. Now, what makes a good reviewer? Good reviewer is the one who provides a thorough and comprehensive report. Many people, sometimes I have seen that in 2 3 lines they give the review report, no annotated manuscript or anything like that. Just this should be there, or this kind of things, they are not considered to be good reviews. Good review is the one which will make the author understand what exactly is missing. I have seen some paper, they just para by para they write recast, irrelevant, not suitable here, this kind of things, they will not. Then you have to mention what is suitable. If this is not suitable, what you expect from them. Recast means what is wrong in that, whether it is the language, whether it is the context, whether it is the references, whatever it is, we have to make it very clear. So what is missing? So good reviewer will be the one who makes the point very clear, and good review will be the one in which this clarity is exemplified. Second most important thing is, they submit your review report in time. That is most important. That is a good review. A reviewer is a good reviewer when he submits his review in time. Then the one who provides well-founded comments for authors which are helpful, but never try to make any derogatory statements about the authors. we have to understand that we are all colleagues. Sometimes you are author, sometimes you are reviewer, sometimes you are editor. We are doing all the three characters. We have to play all the three characters, because at the same time we have to do all the things. Being editor does not mean you stop writing the papers. So when you write a paper, then automatically you are an author for that paper. So likewise, we understand that we will not also accept the derogatory comments or the comments which are which question your compatibility or your competency. These kind of comments you never make. Your language should always be very humble. That will make a good review. It gives a constructive criticism. Definitely criticize whatever you don't like. Definitely, it is your duty to see to it that a proper thing should come to the people. And no matter what you feel, you write it, but your language should be very, very polite. What is the objectivity that should be demonstrated clearly? That will also make a good review, and provide clear recommendation. They also make the good reviewers. So definitely, by looking at all the professional ethics, one understand that the job of reviewer is very, very critical. Now we have to extract the best. Oh, no, some parts are missing here, but yes, background. In the introduction, say maybe there were some points which are not downloaded properly, but I will make mention of those. Most of the times when you are reviewer, the paper, your first impression of the paper from the apart from title and abstract is your introduction. The introduction should be very comprehensive. It should focus on the topic that you are going to discuss. Many people call it as hypothesis. What is the hypothesis that you are testing? So the introductions should be like that, which should give you the state of knowledge in the field of that research in which that paper has. And it should always end with a paragraph in which they say ki, these things have been done, but these are the uh, things which have not been touched upon yet, and therefore this paper addresses so and so thing. That kind of clarity should come in the introduction. When you are able to do that, author's paper will not be rejected most of the times. It should be very clear. So being a reviewer, we have to see that after reading the introduction, whether a reader will be able to understand what they should expect in this paper or not. Then about they say that check the references. Many of the journals, they have their own mechanism of checking whether the the references are there in the text as well as in the list that you provide in the references. It is not although your job, but your job is to see that the references are relevant, and references are latest also. We need latest references. Whether all references are relevant and recent. If the author cite some references that are not familiar to you, then read those first. Some journals provide, I talked about this, that they give you access to for a specific period. See if authors have missed important studies, then you can definitely say. Many it happens that they have missed some important papers, they have not cited in there. So maybe we have a reason to think that probably the author has missed these references, not deliberately, but because of they were ignorant about it. So in that case, you definitely have to point it out. You also feel free to make a mention of your own references if the authors are missing. You can suggest them. Okay, these are also the papers which have been missed by the authors. It's fine, absolutely fine. But then don't be that kind of reviewer who always demands कि मेरे 10-10 पेपर को भी उसमें आना ही चाहिए so that मेरे citation बढ़ेंगे. So this is not going to help. This will not be acceptable. Don't be that kind of reviewer. Now, next thing is about the experimental work and the instrumental methods. In many of the scientific studies, we have to carry the experiments, and it is also beauty of the science that we are always free to devise the methods of experimenting, and every time the new instruments are augmenting in the studies, and therefore the experimentation is a continuous process. Which one you followed? Maybe you can be innovative many of the times that let us try this by this method and all that. So If you are not very much familiar with that particular type of experimentation and the limits of the instrument and all that, definitely you can ask for some external help. You go beyond your normal thing and try to read about those things. If you can do it on your own, it's fine. If you can't do, then ask your friends or the other person to whom you know and they are in that particular field. You can definitely get the information so you can use it during the review. Or else, if both things are not possible, then ask the editor in your confidential comments to him to provide some specific reviewer for that portion of the manuscript, so which will deal with the experimental work and the instrumentation methods. And editor will be happy to do that. He will be happy to see, yes, okay, if this needs that kind of exercise, he will do it. So being a good reviewer, all these things, they matter. In the discussion part, of course, that is not here, but results and discussion, what many a time people just keep on writing the things after things. Many times I have seen two pages of conclusions, and that is all not acceptable. You cannot have 2 pages of conclusions. Conclusions should be very concise, point wise, to the possible extent. There should be a separate discussion column and then followed by conclusions. Conclusions to the point, few only. Some people I have seen that they mix the discussion and conclusions. Whatever I discuss here, they should be taken as conclusions. But the first principle should be a separate, elaborate section on the discussion and followed by a crisp, precise section on the conclusion. That will be a good paper. And if you can point this out clearly in your review, if you can check these points, that will be very, very good of you. Many times author miss the punch lines in that. So maybe if you think that this could be taken in the conclusion part, you can suggest that. But the purpose is to make it the perfect one. So that job is also of the reviewer. Never hesitate. Absolutely feel free to ask for more results or better ways of presenting them. You can always add this comment that you're not satisfied with this kind of data. Or maybe you can say, ki, okay, this much data is enough, but then more data would be useful for you. That's okay. But if you are convinced that this is not going to help you, this data is not sufficient and not conclusive, then you definitely ask for more data. If you believe that the data required for review or review of a statistical expert, then recommend it to the editor. It happens many times. Say I had one manuscript of in field of geology, and I was thinking of the reviewers who can review. So I have selected people. I have given it for the 2 persons from geology and one professor of statistics. I have given the same paper. I talked with the professor of statistics and told him that yes, most of the things in geology will you will not understand, but whatever is mentioned, whatever the methods and statistics that that the author has provided, you have to check it, and that actually really helped me to see to it that the paper is has come up error free, and that is it's a very important paper, very important by international experts from Italy and other countries, and that paper finally was accepted for publication after this kind of review. If you believe that material in the supplementary online information sections would be more useful in the body of the paper or vice versa, recommended. Nowadays, you have a lot of data and you cannot put all the data in the paper. Neither any publisher will publish all the data. There are data tables and tables, but many times that data is very, very helpful to draw many conclusions. So it should be given as the supplementary material. But if it is not given, so as a reviewer, you can recommend, you can ask to give that material as the supplementary data. That's perfectly all right. Language and grammar, it isn't necessarily your job to point out specific grammatical errors, though you are free to do so. But don't waste your time and energy correcting is नहीं वो चाहिए था ये सही नहीं है इसको ये नहीं लगता है इसको ऐसा नहीं लगता है. Okay, if you think that it is too bad, if you have time, if you want to do it. Otherwise, you leave it and you mention it in the confidential comments to the editor that this needs the grammatical errors. Checking of the grammatical errors. Is the writing clear and free of grammatical errors? If not, request additional editing before publication. That is also done. Now, there could be additional considerations. For example, now all these things you have done, but if you think that something is missing in this manuscript, maybe if that is there, this would be really good manuscript. Think of that. If you can put it in very clear words, that will be the real value addition. The author will be always thankful to you. Although he will not know your name, but he will always be thankful for the good review that you have done. Then there are things which you have to report, because a report has to be given, and before reports there are some confidential comments to the editors which do not go to the authors. There are many comments which goes to the author. So the pane which comes in which there are several columns. One column is your confidential comments to the editor. Second is your comments to the authors. And there is also a provision of the questionnaire which is asked. So many journals, many times the journals have this kind of things. What is your first impression about? Or many times the journals have the ranking system. Give from 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. This is weak, moderate, or strong, or something like that. They will have some criteria about it. What is your first impression? Is the research original, novel, and important to the field? You have to mention it 1, 2, or 3. If you are giving 2 means moderate. Uh, has the appropriate structure and language been used? There is some emirate form which has to be followed by an author. That is of course topic of another different kind of thing. But the manner in which the paper has to be arranged, it is given there. Linguistics are also taught separate lectures on this. They are many a times helpful. But then as a reviewer, you have to see to it that the structure is proper and the language used is good. Abstract. Is your abstract a real summary? Many journals have very strict, so 250 words or 200 words or 300 words. They say within that you have to mention. So you have to see to it whether whatever contents, overall contents of the paper, they are reflected in the summary, which is called as an abstract. Does it include the key findings? ये तो जनरल जियोलॉजी के बारे में बहुत बात की और अपने findings को एक line में, that will not help us. We have to see to it that it is comprehensive and reflecting all. Of course, I talked about the introduction. We have to see to it that is it effective, clear, and well organized? Does it really introduce and put into perspective what follows? Yes, after reading the introduction, one should know what is going to follow. Suggest a change in organization and point authors to appropriate citations. Yes, because it happens, but that you are not following a proper style of reporting citation of the references. But nowadays, Elsevier particularly, they say ki your paper, your way. That means you submit whatever pattern is you are following of the citations, and only at the time of your acceptance of the paper, you can follow the journal styles. That is a great help for the authors. Even I realize that if you have submitted a paper to a particular journal, and you have made all the efforts in particularly formatting your references and all that. Nowadays, of course, Mendeley and all those things are there, but even doing that also is a tedious thing. So if your style is consistent, the publishers will say, okay, let us get it reviewed first, and if the journal finds it suitable for publication, that time they can ask you to do it in the manner the journal wants. About the methodology, it's an important section. As a reviewer, what you will see, can a colleague reproduce the experiments and get the same results? Say, for example, someone is using sandbox for the structural studies. We all know that it is very tedious thing. Recreating the things in laboratory itself takes a lot of time. But then you cannot rely only on one iteration. You have to reiterate time and again, and therefore, you have to see to it whether the results are reproducible or not. Did the authors include proper references to the previously published methodology that has to be given, or if he claims that the whole methodology adopted here was his own, then you have to see whether his claim is justifiable or not. Is the description of the new methodology accurate? That has to be seen, and could or should the authors have included something else into it? that has to be seen. So methodology has to be checked that way. About the results and discussion, suggest improvements in the way the data is shown. You may like that data is presented in a different manner. For example, XRD data is there and you want it to be tabulated, fine. If you want it shown graphically, that's fine. Just see what you think. Comment on general logic or on justification on the interpretations and conclusions. You can of course make some comments on that. Comment on the print all those tables. Ask to be given as the supplementary changes you recommend. Both concisely as well as precisely. Sometimes it is very elaborative. You can ask it to make it concise. Or if something is given in very short manner, you can ask him to elaborate it. So that kind of clarity, if you want, you can suggest. Please separately suggested changes in style, grammar. Yes, that always helps. Always take the points separate out and then convey them to the authors that what you want from it. Make a clear and need for changes or updates. Suggest additional experiments or analysis, whatever you think. So that is about the discussion, and finally is the conclusion. Conclusion is the comment on importance, validity, and generality of the conclusions. They should be very precise because that is most important. Many a times, even myself, I will read the abstract and the conclusions. Before going into the other details like methodology and all that, I would see whether the thing that I am looking for is covered in this paper or not, whether those conclusions are relevant for me or not, and then I will go into details of the other discussion so that I will get some cross references and all that. But the conclusion should be very clear and they should be conclusive conclusions. That means out of deliberations, that should be the output of the research. So request toning down of unjustified claim. Someone is saying, okay, this is for the first time I have found this, and you know that in some tens of the areas the similar thing was found, and you are claiming that this is for the first time in this particular city or this particular place, this particular time. It has hardly any meaning. It has to be toned down. So it is already found in so many areas, and you have found in a new area that unless that has a very significance, then only you can say support. Finding fossils in sedimentary terrains is okay. If you are finding fossils in maybe granites or basalts, then that has to be seen something as very novel thing. But then that should not be too much against the prevailing science and all that. I mean, just to quote some extreme examples, the abstracts request removal of the redundancies and summaries. This is the most common problem because repetitions we always see. So a reviewer has to point out the repetitions because no one wants repetitions. So at the end of the manuscript, when one reads it, it should not appear repetitive. And this is the most important job of the reviewer to see to it that it is not repetitive. You can ask to remove those points. The abstract, not conclusions and summaries, uh, summarizes the study. Summary is given in abstract, not in conclusions. Conclusion is not summary. Conclusion is the conclusive part. It can be small one, but whatever is coming out of your research that has to be produced. So that is about the conclusions. About the references, tables, and figures, you have to check them. Say, figure one, figure two, A, B, something like. Then you refer figure four, then figure eight. This random pattern will never be accepted. Always give them one by one in that kind of order. Same is the thing for figures and tables and both. And also while quoting the references, for example, an author XYZ 2015 one, he has published 3 4 papers with same authorship in same manner, then it has to be numbered A, B, C, and like XYZ 2015 A, 2015 B, like that. It can be done. So of course, authors also need to understand this, and then as reviewer, you have to check all those things. So there are so many things that you can do it. So while doing this, we understand that being a good reviewer automatically makes you a better author also. So it is in that perspective, I thought that this presentation can be really helpful to you. In one of the training programs in the Geological Survey of India also have given this lecture as their part of exercise, and that people thought that that was actually in their feedback. They wrote that this will help them to make a better author also. So it is in all that context I tried this. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. Giving it back to Abhijit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, thank you so much, sir, for a deep insight. And this is what I was saying, that since FDP is, just you sir rightly said, now it's not possible. It is in the publish or perish, is what you have absolutely rightly said. So, in that context, this is that's why we have dedicated the one entire session or one talk out of the 15 talks we have conducted in last 5 days on the research publication. Thank you so much, sir, for brilliantly providing these insights. Now, may I take the questions? Some of the questions are there. If you kindly permit, I would like to take the questions.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, there is one question from Dr. Radhakrishnan. He's asking how to reach the Publon and understand our score.
Okay, sir, please, you have to register on the Publons. Just log on to the side of just like ResearchGate and all. They will collect the primary information from you, and then there are two ways by which they do. First method is you can upload your own reviewed papers. There is a mechanism that you have to provide certain details, that this is the title of the paper, this is the journal, this is the year in which it was published. Second thing is that the Publons have uh, the kind of agreement with many journals. For example, Journal of Geology they have, and Earth System Science Journal, which is published in India. That journal also they have a mechanism by which they can link your Publons account with, and they will ask you whether you want credit for your review. So Publons, they will automatically, it will generate and it will be added in your credit score. So all you need to do is to log on to Publons. That's all.
Okay, sir. There is further he has added to his question that Dr. Radhakrishnan had added, that is there any significance in reviewer 1 and reviewer 2? That I think you want to say first reviewer and second reviewer.
Actually, review is an independent process, and no one is supposed to know that who is another reviewer. So everyone has the equal opportunity to make his own observations and comments. Many times what happens as an editor, I see that some of the points, they are common for both the reviewers because both reviewers observe the same thing. Sometimes what happens, one reviewer can be more expressive in extracting what exactly he wants from the author. Sometimes other reviewer, he cannot exactly what he would like authors to read about. And also another important thing is that there are many points which are missed by one reviewer but they are covered by another reviewer. So that is why the advantage is there. The peer review makes it possible to cover as many aspects as possible, and that is why it is very important that two reviewers are there. But what happens, sometimes they are diagonally opposite reviews.
Hello.
This revision or revision. That means these two are contrasting reviews. In that case, editor should do. He should invite the third reviewer to take the decision. But it cannot happen. One has to understand this. You cannot rely on the revision. In that case, you can give it for. That's okay.
Yeah, I think, sir, your voice is not clear. Probably the net, there is some net connectivity issue, I think. Sir, am I audible? Hello? Hello? Dr. Randeep, sir? Am, am I audible, sir? I think there is net issue probably. Yeah, there is some range issue, I'm sure, because, yeah. Okay, fine. I think there is some. Your voice probably is not coming actually, sir. Maybe there is a range issue. I think since you're operating on mobile. Okay. Okay, I think sir will join probably in a minute. Yeah. Hello. Okay, I think.
Am I?
Yeah. Now you're audible. Hello, sir.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Fine. Okay, I think you have already answered that question. I think those are the questions that were there, probably. Yeah, there is, I think, yes, there is one question from Mr. Rehan Ahmed Khan. Sir, am I audible?
You're audible.
Yeah. I request you, sir, if you can please turn off your video because, when video is on, yeah, preferably. Okay, fine. I think Rehan Ahmed Khan is asking which type of journals are recommended by UGC for promotion in engineering side. Uh, I mean, he want to say what are the journals which are recommended or approved by UGC for?
Okay. See, first and foremost thing is that all those journals which are there in the Science Direct, they are all there in the journals SCI index. They what they call as scientific citation index. Scientific citation index SCI journals. There is a mechanism by which the journals are rated by international agencies. Thomson's Reuters is one that gives the citations, but immediately the citations will not start. Sometimes the journals have citations in so point 1, point 3. That does not matter. Even those journals are accepted by UGC because they are the SCI journals. Apart from that, there are only few journals which are also considered by the UGC, depending upon the claims made by the journals also, because many times some genuine journals have also list of the UGC. So those people are going to UGC and then making representations. So such lists are being added. But then, as per the new guidelines of the UGC for consideration the career progression, there are other journals also. They have used the word peer reviewed, and as I said in the beginning of my presentation, peer review means anything for those journals which are kind of predatory journals. In that case, you just some points for that. So scoring points has not been such a bigger task, but making a good paper, for that you have to publish it at least in the SCI journals, SCI index journals, and for that it is easy to find in anywhere in the internet. There are many journals.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Uh, I think the last question probably I will take because there are again comic questions are flooding, but I think we are running short of the time. So I will rather take two more questions from Professor Jharia from NIT Raipur. He's asking that in what extent reviewers will be responsible and penalized if there is a case of plagiarism which identified after research paper is published.
It is your
Hmm.
even for the plagiarism, as I have quoted in my presentation one case of the, I will mention it now, when Chinese authors were there, and one of my reviewers, he pointed me out after he was just looking for some additional references on the topic, and he came across the English subtitle of the title of that paper, and from that when he view the abstract, so he found much similarity with the submitted paper and the abstract. So he has pointed it out by using the Google Translator and all that, and that the things are same. So the authors were also smart that they immediately removed their paper from the systems, and I got with my, so the paper was removed from the system. So then I have reported, anyways I have reported to the managing editor of the journal. But the things they do happen. Now, your question, the second part of your question, to what extent the reviewers will be held responsible? Responsible, it is what we call as the vicarious liability. That means you are liable because the higher position than an author, because being a reviewer, you are at certain higher authority. So some responsibility is there, but not direct. If there is some punitive action, that will be against the authors, not the reviewers.
Okay, sir.
Not necessarily.
Yes, yes. And the last question from Professor Jharia sir only, that what level of self similarity of text acceptable for publication?
Coined the word self-plagiarism also. That means citing his own.
Yeah.
Repeating this.
Sir, probably your voice is not clear, sir. Now it's coming.
I'm we're talking about something else. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, fine. It's okay.
Question.
The question was what level of self similarity of text, that is self plagiarism, acceptable for publication?
I missed the context all of a sudden. Plagiarism is the word found by many people. Now they have taken their own and repeating them. It happens because to a large extent we see that many people, they have, instead of one paper, we have almost similar content. It is okay in some journal conference proceedings, but then if you are using the same conclusions, so that we extent it is allowed. As such, you can always kind of skill that no longer be considered as handed.
Okay.
Never think that. But otherwise, the plagiarism and everything is checked by the machines, not by the humans, and therefore they will simply report that this much percentage of people will know about it. So,
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. I think that was the question was answered. I hope. Hello, am I audible, sir? Yes, sir. Okay, okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your sharing valuable time and giving such a wonderful session. Certainly, the questions were quite also, questions are also nice and the answers are the same. And thank you so much, sir, for bearing all those pains, switching the laptop, then going to the mobile and giving